Hello, my name is Paul Stewart and I'm currently in New Zealand. Now I know what you're thinking, Paul, you're not a Kiwi, are you? You don't speak with a bizarre accent. And that's true, I'm an Australian and we don't think we have an accent at all. I'm just visiting New Zealand for the weekend, so coming up is my flight from Sydney through to Christchurch in a Boeing 737 with Qantas. Actually it's their New Zealand subsidiary, JetConnect, or JetConnect, or JetConnect, I'm not sure how it's pronounced.
This video is part 1 from a weekend trip to New Zealand, which is somewhere I like to visit quite regularly. Check-in happened at these new fandangle self-check-in kiosks, and then I headed off through customs. I didn't film that part as taser barbs are surprisingly uncomfortable. Here I am filming again as I head up to the lounge. An economy ticket usually won't get you in here, although I'm fortunate enough to fly quite regularly and have obtained platinum status a few months ago. I've made a separate tour through the Qantas First Class Lounge, which is honestly one of the best in the world, and I'll put a link to that video below. I snagged a quick bite and sat back and enjoyed the view. This A380 is QF7 en route to Dallas. My mind is constantly blown considering the fact that this very tin can will be hurtling through the air at 40,000 feet across the largest ocean in the world, and in over 14 hours will land in Texas. The plane perving continued with this rare McDonnell Douglas MD-11. Now I don't think there's any passenger versions of these flying, although there's still quite a few freighters flying around. I think this one had just arrived from Hawaii. I had a brief intermission in the day spa, and then the plane spotting continued with this beauty. Sadly, Qantas are retiring all of these old birds over the next 2 years. I'll include a link to my most recent video in a Qantas 747 below. And now, here's our aircraft, a much smaller Boeing 737-800 pulling in behind this Qatar 777. The flight was called and we headed for the gate.
Hello.
Now clearly the autofocus failed, so here's a blurry business cabin and then my seat 4A, right at the front of economy. I'll go through the seat in a little more detail and mention the pros and cons. Now one of the biggest pros for this little avgeek is the wing view of the wing and engine. There's also a decent amount of legroom, so if you're agile, you should be able to sneak past your neighbour without interrupting them. There are these power plugs and 2 USB ports which you share with your neighbour, and the TV screen folds up from below. There's a table hidden in the armrest, and above are reading lights and, importantly, air vents, keeping the top of my head nice and cool. The buttons to the in-flight entertainment are down here if you don't want to use a touchscreen, and here's the headphones. Now, as I mentioned before, I fly enough to have reached platinum, so I was fortunate enough to have been given some headphones from business and an amenity kit, which I'll be giving away later, so keep an eye out for that later on. The aero bridge withdrew and the slats on the leading edge of the wings were extended. A shout out to subscriber Mr. Keith Smith, who I know loves these scenes. Ahead of us was an Air New Zealand A320 off to Auckland, and then it was our turn. Now the takeoff footage was frankly quite disastrous thanks to dirty windows and the angle of the sun, so I've used some tricky editing, and let me know what you think. Keen Av geeks may have noticed a slight discrepancy because, well, obviously the weather is clearer and a few other minor details, but be nice to me, I'm suffering from a cold, as you may have noticed from my voice. We turned east and headed out over northern Sydney. Now one of the disadvantages of row 4 is that you can't access the in-flight entertainment until after you've taken off, which I imagine might be a problem if you're not the type that spends the entire takeoff staring out the window. Now the content is perfectly reasonable and the quality of the screen is fine. It's not amazing, but okay. The view out of the window, on the other hand, was pretty outstanding. As we were flying away from the sun, we got some pretty great sunset colours. Dinner was served and I selected the pork noodles dish and a Pinot Grigio from the Murrumbidgee region out near Wagga Wagga in rural New South Wales. It's obviously not gourmet, but it was fine for economy. Dessert was this boysenberry and coconut bar, which tasted great, and I had a fantail I'd kept from the lounge. Now you may not be able to see it, but these are special Qantas fantails, and this particular question was the name of the Catalina flight from Perth to Sri Lanka during World War II. This 30-hour non-stop flight has a particular name, and comment below if you know what it was. If you're not sure, you might be able to find out the answer from my Longreach Qantas Founders Museum video from a few months ago. Now before we knew it, we had crossed the South Island's coastline and Christchurch had come into view. My landing footage was as bad as the takeoff footage, so I'll sneak in some New Zealand views from my trip. Now 2018 has been a great year for me and this channel, and I would like to thank everyone who's joined me on the journey and wish you all a Merry Christmas. I caught up with YouTubers Dennis Bunnick and Jeb Brooks just recently, and we all feel so flattered that people love our nerdy aviation videos. While you continue to enjoy some sweet as bro views from New Zealand, and I hope you appreciate that incredibly accurate Kiwi accent, I'll summarise the flight. The crew were really good and were typical of the wonderful Kiwi hospitality I've experienced many times. The positives of row 4 are the extra legroom, the wing view, and you can get off the plane faster and hopefully avoid the mad rush through customs. The disadvantage though is that you have to stow away the TV screen during takeoff and landing, and the armrests are a little wider because the screens fold up into them. Now this aircraft was fitted with Wi-Fi, although it only works on domestic flights, so I had 3 hours away from my social media accounts. But overall, the flight was perfectly fine. Having said that though, Qantas do fly the larger and more comfortable A330s to Auckland, so keep an eye out on those if you are heading to the North Island. And finally, the Amanda Kit giveaway. As always, you've got 30 days to comment below and I'll randomly select a winner and post the kit to them. Just comment below with "Sure bro" in brackets, and if you're not sure what that means, search YouTube for many amusing explanations. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to click the thumbs up and check out my channel for many more aviation nerd videos. So, cheer bro for watching this sweet as video, and keep an eye out for my return flight from Christchurch with Emirates and many more incredibly accurate Kiwi accents. Thanks for watching.